Okay, we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. Mantua Public School District Board of Education meeting, February 13th, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lori, could you take roll?
Christopher Abel.
Here.
Vic Hansen.
Here.
Matthew Phipps.
Here.
Stacy Seldner.
Here.
Matthew Spalding.
Here.
Carrie Trask.
Here.
Tony Lestelka.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, and we will start our meeting tonight with our public input. Everyone will have 5 minutes to speak. And our first guest tonight is Braden Meyer.
Brandon Meyer. For decades, colleges have increased their tuition faster than the rate of inflation. Adjusted for inflation, college today costs more than it did decades ago. A 2023 Forbes article explained the annual cost of attending a four-year college, full-time, adjusted for inflation, went from $10,000 in 1980 to over $28,000 in 2020, a 180% increase. Any dual credit program, whether it be the early college credit program, Rising Phoenix, or College Here and Now, allows students to complete their educational life goals faster and without going broke. With dual enrollment, students are given the option to walk down the hallways of 2 schools simultaneously. They may prefer attending UW Green Bay, or LTC could be their cup of tea. Maybe the Rising Phoenix program suits them. Maybe College Here and Now suits them. Maybe the Early College Credit program suits them. Some students may want to earn their associate's degree by the time they complete high school. Others may want to dip their toes in the water to know what to expect after high school. Different colleges and programs offer unique options for students. When given a variety of options, students can choose which best suits their needs and desires. In college, students meet a lot of people. These can be through classes, organizations, fraternities, events, and so on. This opens the door to more opportunities being provided to students to gain life experience and help them prepare for the future. Students participate in high school and college life simultaneously when they do enroll. One way they do that is through student organizations. There's a wide range of organizations students can join when high school and college options are combined. These organizations give students opportunities to collaborate and improve life skills. Being on a club's executive committee provides leadership and other skills worth learning. When I was in high school, I was elected to lead as vice president of a student organization. In college, I was unanimously elected as the treasurer of a student organization, and I got to prepare their budget. Sophomores should have a homeroom session discussing dual enrollment options. Many students are still figuring out what they want to do in life. Some may have thought of dual enrolling, but are unsure if it suits them. And others may not have thought or known about it at all. That one session could enlighten them to a bright future that sets them up to be successful citizens. I'm glad I went through the Rising Phoenix program. I believe students should have the same educational opportunities I was provided. Students who excel academically should be awarded for their achievements, and dual enrollment programs are just one way to award their dedication to education.
Braden. Okay, our next guest is Chris Osprey.
Good evening. My name is Chris Osprey, and I live at 910 North 15th Street in Manitowoc. I come before you today as a teacher in Manitowoc for 26 years and also as the MEA Vice President. Trying to give Sarah a break this month. So as a taxpayer, teacher, and MEA representative, there are two main things that I would like to speak about this evening. I'm sorry that Superintendent File and Assistant McCall are not here in person this evening, but I felt it was important to speak to these issues. First, I question the haste in extending the contracts of the central office administrators. Staff turnover at the central office and of teachers and other staff, as well as unfilled positions, continues to be an issue. This creates a stressful environment as we are stretched thinner and has created communication, payroll, and now tax issues. Teachers have spoken pretty clearly about the doubt and direction of the district through several surveys and around listening sessions, yet very generous contract extensions are given to our leaders. This is showing the staff of the district that our concerns and voices don't matter. On top of that, you're giving tax sheltered annuities of $35,000 and $20,000 respectfully as a bonus for not taking the district insurance, while other staff in the district don't get any type of bonus for that. And I see that as kind of a slap in the face. And I wonder how many employees don't even make $35,000 total in a year. If you are truly concerned about trust and retaining quality teachers, and you absolutely should be, I don't feel that you are sending the correct message. My second concern was the work of the behavior plan that Jamie McCall presented last month. I appreciate that behaviors are being addressed by the district. However, it seemed like the reasons for behaviors unfairly fell on teachers' shoulders. The first three reasons that Ms. McCall mentioned for students' unwanted behaviors being that they didn't know how to be students or didn't know the expectations. And as a teacher that has been establishing and modeling routines and expectations and now repeating them until I'm blue in the face, I think there is much more to student behavior than this. Many of our students have experienced some pretty severe traumas. Many have a lot of anxiety and mental health issues. These are not being adequately addressed. This is a lack of mental health care and not a lack of teaching expectations. My sixth period class has 28 students in it, 9 of which have IEPs with about 30 minutes of peer support. There are daily behaviors in this class. Again, this isn't an issue of me not teaching expectations. Our special education teachers have about 20 students each with students with their own special education needs on their caseloads. And those kids could be in up to 10 or more different classrooms in any different hour. Not to mention the IEP minutes that they must by law meet. To help them accomplish this, they have less than one full-time paraprofessional. This is Wilson being understaffed, leading to large class sizes and students who need extra support and not being able to get it because our special education teachers are also, and paraprofessionals are also being stretched too thin. Again, thank you for addressing these behavior concerns, but please let teachers have a voice in this planning and please consider all the contributing factors to behavior issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next guest is Lori Williams.
Good evening, Lori Williams, 2010 Markham Street, Manitowoc. On July 25th, I stood here to publicly share the 8 errors made to my payroll from June 22 to summer of 23. Tonight, I'll add number 9 and point out that if I was still working here, there would also be a number 10. This is a quote from the memo that's attached to the agenda tonight. The memo is called Skyward Implementation, FICA Tax Withholding Error Update. I'm not sure how closely all of you have had time to read this. Part of it says, What is the financial impact for the district? The financial impact for the district is $205,713.58. Approximately $103,000 each fiscal year. So when you think about that, that is January 1, 23 to June 30th, 23. That's one part of one fiscal year. And July 1 to December 31st. So $103,000 in each 6 months for the district. As the 22-23, so that spring part, fiscal year is already closed, the district will be responsible for covering the amount not paid from the 22-23 budget. Either you can use the fund balance or additional revenues. In a sense, this is not an additional expense as it should have been paid in the fiscal year had the settings been correct. In addition, additional unanticipated revenues, like the continued high interest rates or interest earnings, can easily balance the additional expenditure on the books for the 23-24, so that's the fall fiscal year. Here's the line though. The financial impact for the employees is equal. So really, this is a $410,000 error. I wonder if it's really even larger than that, because the district will incur costs, or may incur costs, I don't know for certain, from tax specialists that have to be consulted, auditors, fines for maybe late payments to the government. I know the impact for the employees is more than this, because some of us now have to employ tax professionals to do our returns. Here's the second quote. Did you read this one carefully? Moving forward, the gravity and effect of a setting error like this cannot be minimized. While there is a natural unsettling feeling that accompanies a system setting error to this level, it is important to know that tax settings for deduction are not something that are changed on a regular basis. 8 errors last year on my paychecks, some due to tax setting errors. The WRS deduction code was a result of our initial implementation. Here's the tricky part. And additional issues that occurred with health and dental premium deductions. That's in 24. That was January 1st and the first payrolls of this year, where too much was taken out and now you owe the teachers. Supposedly, we have systems in place moving forward to ensure that at least 2 people would review any changes from now on. It's a little late. These mistakes have been ongoing for 18 months. You need a finance committee and you need somebody checking on stuff. And it's about time you take care of it.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Our next guest is Barbara Post.
Behavior has already been addressed and it seems like it hasn't gotten any better. I know that we don't have control of anybody else's behavior but our own, but we need to be role models in the community to bring about that change, because kids need to see and say what they need for themselves. And I know I talked about this all before. And school is supposed to be their safe place where they learn these acceptable behaviors, what is taught, because that's the only time we have really a connection with them is when we are face to face with them in a classroom. And as a para with a bachelor's science degree, I knew human growth and development. And I was telling people that when you were this age, what were you doing? And I know I said that before. You have to, school is your safe place where acceptable behavior is taught and nurtured, equal to all without preconceived notions. Open that box. What's inside the box? A lot of people have preconceived notions that say these kids are this way. A lot of boxes don't get open, they just get shipped to the next place. And I know this is old. How are non-compliance being handled? I mean, now it seems like it's really heaped full. We were all taught love and logic in 2005. I know that's old, but that is a very basic strategy that's used on tough kids. I used it for all the time since I learned it, and I spent 16 years with BD kids. I went brain dead a lot because when they do something, they just look at you, they stand there and like, well, what's happening now? And then I would go, well, I'm not really gonna deal with this now. I'll talk to you later. And they just stand there, they're just kind of confused. But I don't know if that's gonna be working now. And I also had personal space put in there, and don't send them to the office because the office is where they wanna get, because that's where everything's happening and they can get all they need. And a lot of people thought, throw them on an iPad, that's gonna do it. No, that's isolation, that's not socialization. And now they have their phones, and that was thrown in there. And as a para, you can't really do anything about the phone. All they were worried about is Fortnite and food. And then now I just wanna talk, so they need to know that someone's going to help them, and I know this is really a big problem now, and it's across the community. It's in every school and probably the United States, because we all have this technology which can be a help or a hindrance. Then I wanted to address these para transitional positions, okay? I was a para that was transferred all over the place. I met so many kids, I worked with so many people. When I was at Riverview, there was probably 80 staff. I worked in the library, saw every kid. When I came out of that, I was sent to that charter school. Then I went to regular ed. I had seen all of these kids when they were at Riverview Kindergarten Center. And I remembered a lot of them because I worked with all the behavior kids there. So, there goes. Oh, and I want to know what this, I don't really understand this parent transitional person. Is that person going to be training somebody? Because if they're not certified to train, you need to be checked off like occupational therapist, that you're doing the right thing, so you're not liable for that position if something should happen. I know that I was on the playground and all the rules were not being followed, like according to the school district policy. Is everybody trained on these protocols and procedures so everyone is following the same thing? Because I got to a school where they weren't, and there was a fist to cuff happen. I went right away into safety strategy. I knew what to do because I was trained in that. And the pair that I was out on the playground with went into like panic. She goes, I tried, remain calm. You have to pull yourself out of that situation, and you build trust by listening. You have to be fully present there. You can't put your emotions on them. You have to go brain dead and think, how am I going to take care of this and make sure that everybody is safe out here? It's a
Barbara?
lot to put on paras.
Hi, Robert. We're about at the end of your time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, our next guest is Jim Heineke.
So I'm done with all this negativity. I would like to remind everybody exactly how to go against the naysayers, how Stacy Seldner got in her position, a nomination from Dr. Carrie Trask. And I think she's been doing a great job with everything that she's been doing, from streamlining things, going through policies, trying to do everything that she can as best as she can. Tony, I would also like to thank you for celebrating the increases in the reading that's been going on throughout the schools. One thing I would challenge the school board on is I did notice that there was some schools that had larger increases than others. Are we talking to the school, the staff at the schools that have the large increases, and maybe get them met up with the schools that don't have as big of an increase to try and, help them? And maybe something's working at Wilson that Washington hasn't thought of yet. I don't know, but that's all I had tonight.
Okay, our next guest is Kathy Saulnier.
Hi, my name is Kathy Saulnier. I live at 614 South 35th Street here in Manitowoc. I retired from special education. I served 20 plus years at Franklin Elementary School. I've been retired a couple of years and I'm so glad I am. What I want to talk about a little bit is insurance, and I know, I think Chris mentioned it a little bit. Well, they say time is money, and as a teacher, especially a first year teacher, you don't have a lot of money. When you get out of school, you get that first job, you look for that money, you look for a good benefit package. Well, one of the things I learned in Manitowoc, and I believe this is still the case, is Manitowoc likes to hire couples. And the reason they like to hire couples is they offered one insurance package and they both jumped on it. I assume that's still the policy. I haven't heard that it isn't. My concern, and I've always had that, I was never hired as a couple. My husband's never worked in the district, but it always bothered me because they went to school, they're paying all that money for their education, and many of us paid well beyond our graduation. And they didn't get that benefit. And your benefit package, your personal benefit package should be somewhat equal. Half of your couples should not get that offer. Manitowoc, at that time, and I still believe do, they don't give both people the insurance package, they give one. So one of the issues I have with that is I would like to know, and I know you can't address it now, but I would like to know what money is being saved from the school district by offering one insurance package. I mean, I know that the district pays some of those premiums. I know when I retired, I know it was $1,500 a month on me to pay my monthly amount. But I know the district covers some of that too. So what is that amount of money that the district's saving on these couples who only get a package? And from what Chris mentioned, there's a lot of teachers out there that can opt out now. Back when I was here, we couldn't opt out. We weren't given that choice. We just weren't given the package if you were a couple. So I'd like to know that dollar amount. But I kind of think the district has already, as a board, you've told us what that dollar amount is. It's a number between $20,000 and $35,000. And that is what's been offered to a couple of people that opted out, that's high on the totem pole, and you left all these other people in the grass. They haven't been getting that benefit for years. Some of them, somebody contacted me and said, oh my gosh, if they started paying me that back amount, even just the difference in the premium, we would be rich. But you gave these people $20,000 to $35,000, and I believe that's a yearly amount because they opted out. They didn't necessarily opt out, they didn't like it. They opted out because they're already covered elsewhere. And this is for two people that are relatively new. Some of these people are well vested in this community. Some of these teachers have been here 20 plus years, and they've never been given that benefit. They've never been offered that benefit. So I want to thank the board, first of all, because you guys all just set a precedence that you will give these people that are not offered the insurance or have opted out, you've set precedence in saying, hey, we can give you something. Now, I guess it's not going to be between 20 and 35,000, but that's the precedence you set. by voting that in. I'm assuming it was a vote or at least a discussion. And how awful of a discussion is that to let these people who have busted their back working in this district, some of them for 30 years, you didn't even put it on the table. It wasn't offered if they came in as a couple. One plan was offered and the second person never got the benefit. And that is wrong. And I hope every person in this district who has, whether they've opted out like Chris mentioned, or they weren't offered, I hope they start coming to you and knocking on your door and asking, hey, where's my 401 job? Because they deserve it as much or more than the people that got that 35 grand. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our consent agenda. And are there any items that anyone would like removed?
Well, I don't know if I need it removed. Perhaps during personnel, we can discuss some of that issue. Or as a board, can we discuss 20,000, 35,000 in as a 401k? I don't understand the difference between those two that the superintendent is getting and the assistant superintendent is getting. Asked Mike about it, he didn't know either, why there's such a $15,000 difference between the two. But I think that's worth the discussion also to the concern brought up tonight. So I know we don't have a personnel committee, so do we discuss that as a board in open session? We should, because it's an open session situation, but I think we need to show some accountability why that happens, why there's a difference between the superintendent and the assistant superintendent. And are we considering it all when we have people who work for us get nothing? I think as a board, we need to discuss that.
Okay, I'm happy to put that on our next agenda.
Appreciate that.
Sure, you bet. Any items that anyone would like taken off the agenda? Yes, John?
Yeah, could you please pull policy 2521? Second read.
Okay, anything else? Okay, seeing none, I will look for a motion and a second to approve the rest of the items in the consent agenda.
So moved.
Chris?
Second.
Second by Biff?
Thank
you. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then policy 2521 is up for the second read. And is there a motion and a second to approve that as the second read?
So moved.
Chris? Anybody else for second?
Second.
Second by Biff? Okay. This is to approve the second read of 2521. Selection of instruction materials and equipment.
Yeah.
Okay, and discussion.
Yeah, so thank you, Stacy. I didn't realize this until after last meeting, but upon looking at this more closely, this has the same language that we tabled 2260 and 61 on. And so I would like to suggest that we table this one until we talk to the attorney. I just don't want to set the precedent that we approve that same language that we're kicking around on the others.
You mean on the non-discrimination thing?
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion about that? Chris?
What paragraph are you looking at?
Well, it's
In 2521.
the same language that we,
Paragraph
down.
I'm asking the person that's requesting it, if I could just give that answer.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it would be the fifth paragraph.
Fifth paragraph, okay, just so I can find it.
Yep. Yeah, it's the same language on gender status, change of sex, or gender identity.
Okay.
So the same exact language for 2260 and 61.
Any further?
Could we read that for the record for minutes? Would you read that section that you want?
Why is that a debatable thing?
I
mean, you know, I thought it was,
we're talking about it on the other policies, we haven't passed it, so if we're gonna,
It's the
if we're
same
waiting for the
thing.
attorney, it's the same language, and
Okay.
that's why I'm suggesting.
We would be
throw-
contradicting
I'm
ourselves.
asking that it be read out loud so we can.
Including gender status, change of sex, or gender identity.
Or just that part?
Yeah.
So you want that deleted, what you just read?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the same issue that we have on the other policies that we're gonna.
I just
talk
want it clear.
Yeah.
So it's out there.
So I guess I don't understand
Tony, to clarify.
Yeah.
You're asking, my understanding was based on what you said, you want to table this policy.
the second.
Correct. I would like to table it until we hear and talk to that attorney.
Okay, so you're not asking for a deletion of that, though, that language at this time of the meeting?
Correct.
Thank you. Carrie?
Oh, it's okay. I was just gonna say that it wasn't being deleted, yeah. I mean, I mean, I got no issue with the issue. But obviously, there's an issue with it with some people. So I guess be consistent, I suppose.
Anything else? Okay, so we have a motion to approve on the floor.
But you have a superseding motion now to table,
Right,
so. That's the.
so we need a second to table it. Second by Matthew to table. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of tabling the policy signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
Please vote in and Betsy Chris.
I said. I think it.
Okay. So now we move to our student representative report. We have Ellie Reed
Very
here.
first one, huh?
Ellie was elected by her peers to be here today, and she would like to provide a report to us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eliana Reed, or Ellie to most people. I'm a junior at Lincoln High School, and I'm the class president for the class of 2025. As Stacy said, I'm here today because our Lincoln High School Student Senate unanimously voted for me to be the student representative here on the board, something brand new to the MPSD. So in my report, the first thing I wanted to do was highlight some of the good things happening at Lincoln High School, because I think it's important that we talk about those. Recently, we implemented a new tardy policy at Lincoln, and it has been successful and well received by most of the student body. We also have a lot of events and projects put on by students, such as post-basketball game parties at the JFK, ski trips, tubing trips, dodgeball tournaments, and a lot of bake sales. And we have a leadership class, and between that and our various clubs that we have, there's always something going on at Lincoln, and that should be celebrated, because a lot of times people only talk about the bad stuff, but there is a lot of good stuff happening over there. On our student senate side, which is what I come from, this is why I'm here in this position, we've been doing a lot of work this year to improve our school. We have a committee of student senators that met with members of the board once a month, and that is how we got to now having a student representative on the board. We have a different committee of students who works with our administrative team to address student concerns, and we also have a recently established diversity committee to work on our school's inclusivity. Additionally, we're raising money right now for a John Rickey Memorial Scholarship by selling t-shirts. We're also working to make voter registration more accessible for students, and we are planning a candidate forum for the upcoming school board election that will take place after the primary election. There's a lot of positive things happening at Lincoln, but of course there's concerns, as there will always be. We have talked about these concerns both with the board and our committee meetings and with our admin team, and we continue to work with them. One of our concerns that we are talking about right now, and probably our biggest one, is our school infrastructure. We were made aware of the audit that is being done for all the buildings in the district, so that was nice to hear. And our committee and student senate is looking forward to seeing some improvements, hopefully in the future, for our school. Another one of our big concerns is allowing students enough free time and choice in classes throughout all levels, so that school can be somewhere kids can learn, but also can enjoy being at, because you won't see improved test scores that we want unless the kids actually want to be where they are. And there has to be a healthy balance. And that one specifically is through all the schools, not just Lincoln High School, as I'm want to be a representative for the all students in the MPSD. In the future, I hope to discuss with the students at all these other schools so that I can better represent them and talk about all the good happening at that school. And that is all I have for today.
Thank you, Ellie. Any questions at all for Ellie?
Is it the tardy kids that are unhappy with the new card?
Yes.
Me, I guarantee you. I would have been too.
One of the things I wanted to just talk about during this time is, since this is a pilot, we do have some ways to shape this. And so, I did a little research. I talked to, I think, 4 or 5 different schools that have a rep in our CISA 7. And they all kind of do kind of a similar thing, but one of the things is that they have in there that you're allowed to stay for the student's allowed to stay in the meeting for as long as they'd like. And so if they want to leave after input, they certainly can. They don't have to. So I don't know if that's something we want. What is our expectation, I guess, as a board and expectation of the student with regard to being here? Does anyone have a?
Well, personally, I think that the goal of this role is so that the student can participate in all these discussions and advocate for students. I mean, yes, there's some things like when you have to go through policies and stuff that's a little time consuming and not as relevant, but I think that it's important for me to stay through the entire meeting.
Okay. The other conversation was about some of the schools use the student representative as during discussion that one of the members would acknowledge the student and ask their opinion on an issue rather than the student participating in every single discussion that we have. So they kind of they described it as acting kind of like Lee and Katie, you're asking their opinion about whatever the topic is. So is there just to add that for discussion, do we expect our student representative to chime in on all the discussions that we have, or do we want to use it as one of us would say at any given time? What do you think the student's perspective is on this?
I think that's up to the student. I mean, I don't think that's up to us. I mean, the student has to be a full member of the body. I think, we obviously have a highly intelligent sitting at the table here, and I think she's pretty capable of deciding, what she can do input on and what she just wants to refrain from. I don't think we should be making a rule on that.
Okay. Other people, other thoughts? Okay, sure.
Well, I agree that the student rep should be as free to join in the discussion as anybody else, following, of course, obviously the same rules of decorum. But I also do not think, while normally, unless, for example, Mr. Spalding said something and I would ask him to address that, I think we have to have a certain latitude as a member of the board that really wants the student senate or the high school student perspective, the ability to ask that question directly, whether they've addressed anything on the subject yet or not. I think we should all just allow that kind of attitude there.
Okay. I think Carrie brings up a good point. I think there's some, I think we need to talk about, is the student representative actually a board member? Or are they someone that's been asked here, such as the other individuals that are consulting? So I think that needs to be something that is discussed and addressed by this board. Does anyone have any feelings on that?
No, I thought we did that.
I see him as a full.
Yeah, I think the student representative should have the ability to speak at board meetings. Otherwise, I just don't want to get a monthly report from Lincoln High School. That doesn't make any sense. I don't think that's the purpose of going through this process. That, you know, if there's something that we can get some good input, or the representative feels like they might have some questions and want to ask the board why they're doing that, I don't have a problem with that. You know, they're a non-voting member, we understand that. They can't be because they're not officially that part of the board, but if we wanted a student representative, then we have to give them that ability to be a representative, not just a monthly report.
How do other schools do it that have student representatives?
Wouldn't care.
The majority of them are basically an update to the board. Many of them leave after the giving their report. And like I said, the one school, it's not, there's no rule that they can't ask, be part of the discussion, but it's more, you know, when a discussion comes up that the members will ask their perspective and how. It's really across the board. Yeah, Harry?
I just want to say, this is sort of a double cross, it seems to me. I think that the students asked to have representation on the board. We talked about it at Lincoln, and Chris has been in discussion with them. And I think their expectation is that they have a representative on the board, a non-voting one, but nevertheless a representative on the board. And I don't know why we're parsing all of this kind of, you know, after the horse is, you know, no offense to you, but after the horse is at the table. You know, it's like.
Okay, I believe they asked for clarification. So that's kind of what we wanted to make sure that we knew their goals and expectations of this board member.
Yeah, I wanted to know, I assumed that their expectation was, I guess, and maybe that was a wrong assumption.
No.
But, yeah, I'd like to know it.
I would agree that I would like to hear her opinions on obviously on these things that would affect students. I would expect Ali to speak up and be part of the conversation. You know, obviously there are some things that are just beyond the direct, you know, affect something that would affect students. But you know, I'd like to hear your opinion on anything that has to do with that. I'd also like to know that the rest of us would give her latitude as well. One of the other concerns was that, you know, she is still in high school and she's a class president and obviously a very busy lady. So if she does have some time constraints, especially because we are famous for going till 11 o'clock and beyond, that we would allow her some latitude, that if she does need to go, that would be also taken into consideration.
Any other discussion or comments? All right, thank you for your report, Ellen, appreciate it.
Thanks, Ellen.
Okay,
Did we settle on anything?
I don't think it was up to
it's just a discussion.
It's just a discussion, oh, okay.
Okay, so under report of superintendent, one of the things that was requested was to have the district priority goals, having that updated once a month. So in our packet, there is a list of the priority goals. And so I would leave this up to anybody if you had any discussion about this, any questions for Jim or Jamie about those at all. Okay, all right, seeing none, just okay, the next item is our Board of Education Professional Development that we're going to have on March 6th from 4 to 6. There is a note in your packet about this information. Jim, do you want to add anything about that?
Sure. We would just like to be able to provide as many questions or issues, that they would like to be able to have addressed in the presentation and the follow-up between the board and the School Board Association attorney. So your input would be valuable here in terms of, and we are also seeking the staff and other stakeholders so that you would also know in terms of any questions that your stakeholders may have, so that we can get as much out of this professional development opportunity. And again, it's a professional development for the board with public, obviously being able to learn and understand themselves. It's not open to their questions then. So we're trying to provide an opportunity to make sure that you understand what other questions staff or stakeholders might have, and to forward that information on to the School Board Association attorney so that he can prepare a presentation that meets our needs.
So you'll see
And-
in the document, there is a place to collect those questions that you have. So we want to get those. And, with, approval tonight, we'd like to send that also out. It'll be on our website and other places for the community to also put their questions, so that Robert can make sure that he's tailored and is able to be prepared for any of the questions that we have during that.
We'd like to have that information back, Wednesday, February 27th, if possible.
February 27th, you said?
Yes, yes.
So February 27th, so use that to collect those questions, and then we'll make sure we have those ready. Okay. All right, any
Thank you.
questions all about that? Thank you. Okay, our next item is our enrollment update, and this is the memo that came out on the second Friday enrollment update, and also the survey information. And Angela, did you want to add anything to your report?
Sure, just briefly, the information was attached in board book as usual. I added a couple of things to this report this year, just to give a little more depth of understanding in regards to enrollment projections, current enrollment and such. The second Friday in January count is used mainly for aid purposes and a part of just reconciling open enrollment between districts. And so the outline, we lost 26 students between the September count and January count. One of the things that we just need to look at as a district and examine closer are the number of students that we lose that are not able to be counted just because they're simply not attending. Typically, we have more of these at the secondary level, but what was just kind of stood out compared to other times was that we had some at the elementary levels, and that's not typical in my time in the district. We've usually had only students, maybe one at an elementary school, but then mainly at the secondary school. So, and just a higher number at the secondary schools too. So we just need to examine that closer and see if there are things that we can do to work together on lowering those numbers. Because of course we want them in our doors, and so we can educate them. Enrollment projections, when we look at the facilities study stuff coming up, we're gonna see, we just have a lot smaller classes coming in now. We have our kindergarten classes compared to our graduating senior classes are much smaller. And so that's a common enrollment trend that's being seen across the state. So districts all over are working through declining enrollment. So we are definitely not alone, and we'll have to make many careful decisions based on those trends. I did, further along after the memo, there was an enrollment projection, and about a month or so ago, I had about 100 students less physically attending in the district next year, but that was lowered to, let me see here, for next year to be less, just from the standpoint of
37 student drop from the, I used the projections and worked with CISA 10 to see what their alignment was with birth rates. So we've been wanting to make sure that we match with that. So when you're looking 10 years out, it's, you're guessing to a degree. So, it's the best information that we have at the time. So, so that's just as far as enrollment projections looking forward. And then open enrollment, we continue to have more out and then drops in students coming in. So we really want that to work in the opposite direction. We want less out, more in. Our highest amount of students that open enroll are at the high school levels. And I did, because I think this is very important information to see at the end of this memo, was the schools where students are open enrolling out to. So the highest, open enrollment out is to Valor's area school district, then Two Rivers, and then Mishicot. So I just put them just really in numerical order so that you could see where that's sort of landing, because I think that's just an important piece to see. And as I mentioned, with the open enrollment in, we have more at the high school level. And that is pretty typical. Then one thing we've also, then moving on just from the enrollment report itself, is we've talked often about doing open enrollment in and out survey results. And many times we talk about the fact that work-related reasons or personal reasons end up being one of the main influencers to why families will choose to open enroll in and out. And that showed in the survey results that were shared. There were some other comments that were shared as a part of this survey as well that I included. And we can continue to run this survey each year. We can do it at the same time at the beginning of January and continue to monitor this and, use this for future planning. So I didn't know if there were any questions.
Any questions for Angela at all? Yeah, Tony.
How prevalent is that declining enrollment? You said it was happening at other districts too. Is that like every district? I mean, I'm sure there's some that are going up, right?
Sure, less, I would say, I don't have the exact number on hand, but I would say it's at least 75% of districts, if not a little higher, are dealing with declining enrollment.
What, in your opinion, is causing that to happen?
Just less births overall, just less,
I think it's the declining birth rate. Is that the primary driver?
Yeah, correct.
Chris.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions. One, see if this has a page number on it. Before you have the charts with pupil enrollment, where you have your survey information.
Mhm.
Now, you have quotes from people there. Are these quotes from people who are open enrolling elsewhere?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding,
Correct.
those are problems.
Yes.
And my second question is, because I have to tell you, I'm not picking on you. I'm not, but I have to tell you that your enrollment projections strike me as incredibly rosy. In the last 4 years, we have lost an average of 125 students a year. Okay, that's a shockingly big number.
Mhm.
And for us to suddenly go, well, and then from now on, it's only gonna be 37.
Yeah, right.
My question is, did the birth numbers during the last 4 years track back? Justify expecting it to drop 125 because the projections weren't like this 4 years ago.
Yeah, and the main thing that we, it's whether we use the 4K rate, because the amount of students that attend for 4K is what varies a lot more. And we always have a significant increase between the 4K and the kindergarten attendance. So when CISA 10, when I touched base with them, they were using the Manitowoc County birth rate as a percentage of that, using those numbers. So it is gonna still steadily decline and be an issue that we're gonna have to monitor. So what I was using was a lower number before,
Okay.
So yeah, it was just kind of based on, sometimes I would use a 3-year average of our last 3 graduating, or not graduating classes, kindergarten classes, but Like in talks that we had an exec team, it was using the birth rate to see if we could get a little tighter estimation on that. So, yep.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
So, and I don't know if this question is for you or Lee or Jim or Jamie. What are we doing to change the loss of students? There are schools in the state that are not losing students, that have the same birth rate. They're just like this area, but they're bringing kids in. What are we doing to attract students to our district? You know, we lose kids to Valders, it's a good district. We lose kids to Two Rivers, it's a good district. Michigan, it's a good district. But my question is, why are they going there? Are we not offering something those kids can take? Are the programs not good for them? I guess my question is, what are we doing to change this course? We've seen this decline now for years. And how do we become a special high school, middle school, grade school that people choose to come to? It's not just us losing kids, the other schools in this area are all losing too. But why are we losing so many? What can we do to change? How can we sell ourselves?
I'm sure there's a lot of things attributing to it, like what you said as well, but like I said in the last meeting, we're talking about projections and things like that. I think right now we're looking at even a greater decrease in enrollment, because we are going to start seeing the effects of this tragic COVID ordeal. I mean, we are literally a city, like I said the last time, we have a hospital that shut down a natal unit because they weren't having any babies. So we are going to see, and it's a lot of those drops and huge declines are not going to be, directly related to anything other than the fact that there may be less kids at this coming time. Right now, being in 2024, you're looking at 3 to 4 years old, and by next year or the year after, I would think we're going to see a huge drop. But, that's because of this, all of the devastating COVID protocols that were in 4 years ago. That's just an opinion, though.
Did anyone else have their hand raised? Tony?
Yeah, I was just curious. I don't know if I'm not seeing it, or maybe it's not in here, but do we have any data that was pre-COVID on, we talked about, or Chris mentioned, I think it was like 140 students a year since 2020, and I'm just thinking out loud, but without knowing the data before then and how we were trending down, I'm sure there was some element of people that were probably not happy with the way that COVID was handled, that probably led to a spike in departures during that time.
It did spike during that time. I'm trying to think here if I have the chart over the last, unless I left there here and I can. There was another chart that usually is in here, and that has more, and I can provide that. Just more of a 10-year overview of the open enrollment, and it did spike up a little bit more. I have if you see at the bottom of the third page, there's the open enrollment in total historical. It did peak up 2021, and 21, 22 came down again. So that was definitely a spike during COVID. So the chart itself, or the numerical chart, isn't here, but the graph is there. So
I'm not a demographer, but it seems like we're in maybe not a perfect storm here in Manitowoc, but a pretty bad one, pretty predictable one as well. I mean, we are a city. I came here, in 1972, and this city hasn't grown much since 1972. I mean, we have a static population that's doing one thing: it's getting older. It's just getting older. I mean, we've been warned about that. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago that, so what we need to do, I guess, is, we can't go out and make babies on our own. So, but the fact is that we need businesses that hire lots of, workers, and the population expands. But I don't see any other way out.
the amount of students attending parochial schools. We can work on that. We can.
Well, they're declining too.
You know, that's something that we can approach too. And, you know, the discussions we had internally when COVID was here was that, you know, once a family goes to another district and that was reflected in the comments as well. Once they go to another district and they're happy there, the chances that they'll come back are less. So, you know, my daughter was in kindergarten, 4K when COVID hit in kindergarten when I came to the district. And so she's in 3rd grade now. So you think if you had families that were moving out during that time when their kids were really young, you know, that almost takes their whole schooling to work its way out, you know, in a sense. You know, it's not, I don't have data on that specifically, you know, whether that's where the decisions are, but, you know, if they make a decision then and just stay out the whole time, you have to kind of work through their whole schooling.
If I could just ask, I was referenced in the question. You know, as the former high school principal, what I'd say is, and I think I even said it in this board meeting, we may have some achievement gaps, but we don't have opportunity gaps. And when you're looking at a comprehensive high school that we have, it's about our co-curricular, and as you spoke so eloquently to tonight, it's about our co-curricular opportunities, making our kids feel invested and involved. We have, as you saw, there's parts of our school report card that we don't want to look at, right, sometimes, but we do need to. But there's also some things that we have to celebrate, like our participation in dual enrollment college credit earnings by our kids as comparatively to they are in districts that surround us. That should be on a billboard somewhere. We have opportunities in school to work through our school to work office at Lincoln High School with really an impressive top state-of-the-art state leading program in YA and school to work. Like when you're talking about, and as Angela's numbers point out, these are situations where kids are choosing to go, and a lot of times at that high school age. Well, look we're full of opportunity. So how do we communicate those opportunities to the areas so we reverse the trends of the Valders and the Mishkots and the Two Rivers getting our kids and we take them? I mean, that's to me the answer, but it's making sure that they're aware of those opportunities. Every person who has a kid wants the best opportunity for their kids. And I think that's the answer.
It's like we've talked with other issues. We need to go out and find out what those schools are doing that are attracting kids. You're right, we have programs at the high school other places don't have, but who knows? Carrie is absolutely right. Manitowoc County is one of 8 counties, I believe, in the state of Wisconsin that has not increased in population since the 1970s.
Right.
So what that means is we're the same number we were there, but we're all great.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of workers that come here and work, but they go back to their home community. They don't stay here. So we have to find a way to sell to get kids to come here. And that's already been invented. So what, you know, hey, what's Kimberly and Kaukauna and Appleton North doing that they're growing? What has Bayport done that they're growing? You know, these places are bringing kids in. We're not the only school. A lot of schools around this that used to be D1 high schools are now D2. They're shrinking. So it's not just us, but we have to find a way, as Elise said, to sell the good things that we do so people know about it. We're not doing that.
Yeah, I think we could do a better job there, certainly. Raising student achievement, if we can keep on the same track that we're on right now, certainly I think be a great differentiator.
And I was just gonna, I'll just say too, I mean, I think the survey was great. I mean, again, it's still a limited amount of information, but again, I mean, it's pointing out the things that we are really trying to work on, which is, you know, they talked about bullying, they talked about discipline, they talked about lack of learning, they talked about middle school math not having accelerated programming anymore. You know, so I think there's a lot of data here for our admin staff to also look at. So I think it's a combination of, we know that these are deficits in our area, in our school with regard to discipline and bullying. And again, it's another thing that says to us that we got to do something about this. So anyway, so I mean, I would just, suggest to Jim and Jamie that, we take this information and, talk about, keep us abreast of a plan. What can we do marketing? What can we do to really showcase the positives that our schools have? And so maybe you could, I don't know, work on a plan of some sort. Another one, Jim, a plan of some sort to, have us incorporate some of this information. Anything else?
I thought it was a good report, yeah. I mean, I looked at it and I thought, well, this is sort of the demographic version for us of global warming. I mean, there are things that are creeping up, and we know they're coming, and we can't deny it. And we should be thinking ahead in terms of not only how we respond to it immediately, but how we start to respond to it long term.
And did everybody get my the thing that I sent out about from the state survey? The survey of enrollment, I sent that out to everybody. Did that not come?
When did you do that?
I don't know, last week. After I said I was gonna send it to you guys. No? Okay, all right, I'll send it again. This was the one that, when I went to that fall conference.
Oh, yes, you did.
A fall conference, and it talked about, it's the enrollment data for our state and what's going on in the state. You do have it?
Well, I mean, I think bullying is one of the things too. I mean, that's just something that can be addressed easily. I think we have a student representative here that might be able to speak on something like that. What do you think, Kelly? Why don't you give us your opinion? Just because you see things changing, do you see things getting better? You see them getting worse? I mean, you've been in the school district for a while. Why are you in Manitowoc School District?
Well, I do live in the district, so that's kind of the main reason that I went to the district. It's easy to like being in Lincoln because I'm involved in a lot of things, and I enjoy going to like sports events. But then there's a lot of kids who don't enjoy those things. So I think maybe if we do have a lot of opportunities, but opportunities all around. Personally, I think that it's really easy to want to go to a school like De Pere. Have you seen their gymnasium or their school? These schools are very, I know it's we have a historic school, but as a teenager, it's really appealing to go to a modern school that looks nice, has a nice gym, has easy access stairs, a big lunchroom. Our school is I mean, it's a very historic building. The tower is amazing. It's beautiful from the outside, but I think the inside is just, some kids just are you go and visit for a basketball game and you're why doesn't the inside of our school look like this? I think that personally would be my biggest reason why I would think students, I can't speak on parents obviously, that they could have different opinions, but if I was a student and was my biggest thing, it would probably be that, because we have really great teachers and we have really great programs like Mr. Tempest said, and that's all very attractive. So.
That's good. I'm actually excited for you to hear some of the things that are currently going on and you may have missed within the last couple of meetings. I mean, we're redoing the floor in the gym and, updating a lot of things structurally and building wise. So, hopefully we can go towards that to where we can have them come to our school and see that. So that's really nice. It's good to hear.
Okay, well, thank you, Angela. Appreciate it.
Another quick question.
Yep.
Do we have any data, and I'm sorry if I missed this, but I'm just curious to see how the decline in the birth rate compares to the decline in the district enrollment? I just don't want to be so quick to attribute all the people leaving or the decline to being just the birth rate going down, because I think that would probably not be accurate. And I'm just trying to understand, there's some element of, people that have left for other reasons, right?
Yeah, but you're responsible, I think, to just contribute.
Well, Tony, I'll send you that again because it tells you why the decline enrollment in the whole state. And then and the other thing, I think it's twofold. The enrollment is not going to be there because there aren't enough babies.
but we're also losing students because of the things that, you know, Ellie's talking about or in the survey. So it's twofold. When we forecast, you know, we're losing, you know, it's kind of like this is what's happening now, but in the future, it's going to become about birth rate. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll send that out again so everyone can see it. It's interesting data. Okay, all right, so next item here is our, the W-2 update. So this was a memo that Angela sent out about the withholding error that happened. Does anyone have any questions for Angela about the memo, or Angela, did you want to add anything?
Most of the detail is in here. You know, can't emphasize how much we work tirelessly to avoid such things. And we never want the impact like this on employees or the district, and just that's just something that we never would dream to strive for. You know, the work of implementations, the volume of work with that, you know, these things can tend to slip in as a part of that work. And like I said, definitely not intentional. And, you know, as soon as we realized it, after the first payroll in January of 2023, we made a fix to that, thought we had it all fully resolved, but we had the one box that wasn't checked right. And so that lent up to the additional errors that went through for the remainder of the year. So, and we're responsible for fixing it. So, and as the business manager for the district, you know, I did what I felt was right once we discovered what the error was and brought it to the attention of the employees. And then just, you know, went through the steps to explore what our options were and just do our due diligence in that way. I called our insurance right away, wanted to see if like errors and omissions policies, you know, which we do have as a part of our liability coverage, if there was anything that we could do to say not to have to, you know, go back and collect from our employees, knowing that that's a huge weight, you know. All of us are impacted on it, you know, myself included, you know, we're, you know, proportionally impacted based on our earnings. And when I talked to the insurance, they said that part of it wouldn't be covered, that anytime you have tax liability, that is part of what the employee is responsible for contributing, we have to go back and collect that from them. And then the goal became, and we worked with our accountants, the tax experts at Hawkins Ash, and because what I wanted to be very cognizant of was for the employees to make sure that we could furnish a corrected W-2 that would not cause them problems when they're filing their taxes. So we worked with the firm just to have someone kind of test and evaluate. Jeff Dvorak from Hawkins Ash, his wife is an employee in our district, so let's use her as an example, and I'll help, you know, make sure that we're all straight on it. And he was really good about that. So in essence, what we did is we made sure that the W-2s reflected what we should have collected. Okay, so you know, we make it right for the filing purposes of the employees as a district, and then we will now work to collect from the employees, current and former, in order to make sure that we do right by the employees to contribute and to contribute the district's portion of what we owe for that benefit. So, so that, you know, those were the steps that we took. So, yes.
Just so I'm clear here, just because there's a lot of words here, and I'm just trying to condense this down into something that's easy to understand. It seems to me like, and please, if I misstate this, correct me, but it appears that there was some sort of payroll glitch, we'll call it, and last year we ended up paying employees more than they should have received. Is that right? Or they didn't get taxed the right amount?
It's an overpayment. You know, tax liability of the employees isn't any more than it would have been had we checked the correct box.
Okay. And so when I see that number, the financial impact to the district is $205,000. Does that mean that we just, is that really gonna cost us $205,000 because of this mistake? Or is that just, we're gotta move money around but it's gonna be even at the end?
Half of it would have been is in the budget this year. I mean, when I go through and do the budget, I make sure that with our wages, that the correct amount for FICA is figured into that. And half of it would have been really truly incurred in the last fiscal year, but because we didn't book it on the 22-23 school year or fiscal year, excuse me, we will have to pay for it this year. So it's not really like our expenses any more than it truly would have been, but just where it will land on the books is
Just when it's
gonna be
accrued.
more in this year.
All right, so it's accrued more this year, but like, it's not really necessarily costing the taxpayer any more than it would have.
Correct.
It's really just a bunch of brain damage now with our staff that we gotta correct, right? Is that?
Correct.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay,
it
so,
is.
thank you, and I guess, looking back at, where we're at today and, how this all transpired, what would we have done differently to avoid this? Or is there anything we could have done to avoid it?
I probably, looking back now, I probably would have maybe had more people look at the codes. We had, counselor comes and helps and works with foundation stuff. I had him, I said, hey, can you take a look at this? I'd like another set of eyes on this. I looked at it, and then when we went through that first payroll, I felt like we'd done such a nice job of making sure we checked these codes, because I'd hear horror stories from colleagues that have gone through these implementations. When you do any kind of implementation, it's not a matter of like if something is going to happen, it's what it's going to be and how you're going to find it and how you're going to fix it. Because it's a huge amount to set up. We had upwards of 30 to 40 hours of implementation meetings and then homework and things to fill out and prep in order to get this implementation done. So I would have had even more people review it and had, Skyward, when they help you set up your codes, they're very careful because if something goes wrong, something goes south like this, they do not want to have any liability on their side. They say, you gotta do your settings, I kind of wish that we could have had more guidance from them. Also, it was hard for us to find our settings in our old software. And so I trusted our payroll coordinator to say like, hey, can you look back? Can you see where these settings are and verify them? And she verified them as well. And that's where, it just, between all those pieces, we still had the issue. So, and then some other questions that have come up, people have asked, well, couldn't you have caught that maybe on your 941s when you filed those? And part of it is we had staff turnover then. We had a brand new payroll coordinator come in after we went live with Skyward. So, just the volume of work, just getting comfortable with the payrolls and the new software and getting her trained in and everything. Usually, let's say we had the same person through that whole entire process, there probably would have been a point where they'd say, ooh, something seems like our contributions for these things have gone down. Why is that? And so your reasonability checks, that was part of something that could have maybe been caught earlier. So we tried, and the other thing is we run a W-2 audit, and our current payroll coordinator, her background is more in private sector as well. And, when you look at your boxes 1, 3, and 5 in the private sector, it will be very common for those to be the same because WRS isn't something that you have in the private sector. So when she reviewed that, she's like, oh, this looks about right. When she looked at it for her reasonability. And so, when we discovered it, we took action as quickly as we could. And, it's our responsibility to stand in front of it, fix it, and make it right all around.
My humble suggestion is, it's unfortunate this happened. Obviously, it's creating a lot of heartburn for a lot of our staff, which nobody wants. But I think looking backward, we just got to learn from why this happened, get to the root cause, create a log of lessons learned, right? And just make sure that we implement the proper procedures. If we ever do anything like this again, frankly, I just don't want to hear any more about payroll glitches.
I do not want to either. I'm with you 100%.
Just for clarification, because just for clarification, 'cause there's some inconsistencies with public comment and things too. Our fiscal year runs July 1st through June 30th. So it's the entire year, July 1st through June 30th.
Correct.
Is that it? Okay. Anybody else? Yeah? Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. Would you ever get?
Go ahead, Matt.
Sure. Angela, I kind of remember when you spoke about a year and a half ago about Skyward coming on board. So I kind of walked as a board member hearing a lot of that stuff happen as it was being unfolded. So what I want to sincerely say is thank you for your efforts of what has got us to today. On the other hand, what I am hearing you say is you're taking responsibility as the executive director of this understanding of problems rolling out the Skyward. And that means a lot to me, between me and you, that you're saying, hey, there was a mistake. I'm the director. I take responsibility for it. I don't believe that this could have been solved on the board level. I don't believe this could have been solved by the superintendent. I don't believe this could have been solved by anybody probably except you and your department. And I understand the challenges you went through to even get us to today. So I'm not going to try to politicize or make anything more than I'm sorry that you had to go through this. And I accept you taking responsibility for your actions, and you understand there was consequences to that, and we're going to work through those. But thank you for being here and doing what you've done to this day.
Thank you. Yes?
I just had a question. How do we handle the people who left?
We will be sending them letters with the amounts that they owe and, the quick planning right away, there's multiple messages that can be sent. I'm planning, with, our employees will have 9 payroll deductions to take care of that. So like, let's say myself, for example, I want to just pay it outright and get it done with. I could bring a check in and say, just, here you go, and my payroll deduction will be removed. For those that are no longer with the district, we'd allow them, if they want to pay in increments if they'd like to. Otherwise, we'll likely have to explore taking to collections, and going through that route. I mean, what I don't want to send as a message to our current employees is that they're on the hook and the people who left are not.
Right.
So that's something that exactly how we will go about that. My hope is that we will have compliance in paying their tax liability overall. But there are no guarantees there, so we may have to take additional action. And I'm open to exploring different options as far as that. I mean, if someone would call me and say, hey, I can't, I would try for us to have it all collected by June 30th so that we could have that just for the close of our fiscal year. But if someone would contact me and say, I can pay it back, but I need flexibility, why would we not, work with someone on that? So.
Okay, good.
But the amounts aren't all that huge, are they?
No.
No, the highest, and I put the statistics on here, the highest is just over $700 and the lowest is $1.30. So the average overall was $243. And I had the average by the different classes as well. So it's really going to be, WRS is 6.8% of your earnings, and it's going to be 7.65% of that. So that's where it'll be in line with one's earnings. So.
All right, thank you, Angela. Appreciate that. The next item is a new position. Proposal of the Lincoln High School security monitor and Mike Nutt.
Yeah, I'd like to call on our principal, Mr. Hoffman, to discuss that matter.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Micah.
So we're just proposing, currently we have a door monitor position that sits right out front, outside the main office, in the main entrance of the building. Their job is to kind of just bus students, visitors in, welcome to the school and saying, what's going on? Who are you and why are you here, so to speak, right? Students, they go to class, it's the mailman, they come in, depends on what's going on, right? We know that the reason for this proposal is twofold. First one is really about security. Lincoln has no real secure entrance. Like, there's not a vestibule where people can get buzzed in and wait and so on and so forth. So like, once you buzz in, you're in the building, you can go anywhere you want to. And that's clearly, in a building the size that it is, it's a bit of an issue of it, right? So two main places where students or people may enter are through the main doors, and then what we refer to as the student parking lot entrance, door K, completely on the other side of the building, kind of by the auxiliary gym, if you've been back to JFK area, the smaller gym towards the back. What happens currently is that security monitor position in front of the main office, when the student buzzes into student parking lot entrance, they say, show your ID, please, and the student holds their ID up to the camera, and then their camera system isn't perfect, right? Okay, but I'm not sure, it kind of looks like you, right? Come on in, right? And they come into the building and they go wherever they gotta go, right? There's all kinds of, you can imagine, security concerns or surrounding that, somebody's hide around the corner, whatever it might be, quickly jump on in once it is, and there's no personal contact whatsoever when students are coming in or anybody else is coming in that door, right? So that's a bit of the first part. Like, can we have two main places where people come in? Can we have somebody there face-to-face monitoring who's coming in, checking on, getting to know students who are parked in the parking lot, right? Oh, yep, there's, recognize you, come on in and go. So the security is a huge factor of that. We want to just have limit the access points, and where there are access points, are there people monitoring those access points? The second part of it also has to do with security, but it's a bit of a student engagement kind of portion of it, as well as maybe helping to fulfill a more robust opportunity for people to do different varied positions. And what we want this new position to do is, whoever applies and how we decide who's going to go where, this new position will be the one that's at the main entrance. And their job is going to be actively monitor the security cameras all throughout the day, every second of the day, watching back and forth, clicking, patterning, all kinds of things. Knowing what students are coming in, going, what students are coming in. So when the bell rings, we want them up, walking around, greeting students who are crossing the hallway, greeting students maybe coming in from Rising Phoenix or work experience, either apprenticeship or whatever reason, maybe they have a late start for whatever reason they're coming in. Hello, good morning, so on. Lunches happen, they're by where the students are coming in, welcoming them, seeing them, looking and watching, oh, hold on a second, I don't recognize you. This will maybe take some time, of course, as they get to know the student body, right? But what's going on? That security part of it. The other part is to actively monitor the cameras throughout the day, so that when an issue may arise, could be a medical issue, could be a behavior issue, whatever it is, we're able to act on it swiftly. Currently, what happens is we're alerted to whatever's happening somewhere in the building, and then either an administrator or officer check or SRO, wherever they might be, heads back to where their computer is, wherever that might be, gets on the camera system, tries to find the camera angle that it's located at, hits the back button, tries to figure all that thing. There's a lot of time spent figuring out what happened where.
You two are laughing over there,
They know it very well, right? What we would like to have happen is somebody, again, actively monitoring that and saying hey, there's a medical issue in this hallway. We know exactly where it is. Go here, because they're watching it. Or let's say there's some sort of behavior issue that happens, right? There's not a ton of fights that happen, but on occasion, it's a high school, these things happen, right? So if we're alerted to something going on behaviorally in the hallway, we go as administrators, maybe an SRO, to take care of it. By the time we come back, this person maybe has said hey, look, when you get in your office, check camera 3, 4, and 6. This shows you the best angles. This is kind of what happened, so that we can process right away. Right now, if something happens, we get back in our offices, we spend 20 minutes trying to figure out where on the camera it was, and then we can address the behavior or the incident that happened. So it's just going to allow for us to really actively monitor what's going on in our building all of the time, at least the time that they're there, and have some student engagement with that so we know what's going on.
Any questions at all for Micah? Yes, Chris.
But I just want to make sure I understand what you're trying to do here. So you're gonna have one person by the student parking lot. I think you said that was K.
Correct.
Okay. And another at the main door,
Yes, sir.
where you currently have someone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that person, does that person currently have monitors, or are there not monitors there right now?
There are monitors there. Yes, sir. There are.
Oh, okay.
And this has not been, like, we've increased their access a little bit so like can help do this, but it's just not been, we're working on offering them opportunities to kind of grow and monitor the camera system. But we want somebody that, this won't be, because that position by door K will be far away.
Yeah.
You know, so like having them, we would also want them to actively monitor the cameras as well. But this person is a point of contact right away, right in front of the building, knowing like where the most of the entrance is coming in. So that position clearly is the one that we want to be as well informed to access right away.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to make sure I understood what we're talking about, because that is also a person who really talks with
the first point of contact.
Everybody, including us visitors, as we enter the building.
Yeah.
Is it going to be possible for them to do that and keep a good eye on the monitors? Okay, that's all.
Are they gonna be like, you know, every second, you know?
No, I don't.
It's not always something happening every second, right? Like, you know, like, hey, get up.
All you gotta do is see it.
Good morning, you know?
To know what's
Yes, sir. Yeah, okay, back and sit and actively and watch and, you know, it's gonna be, their heads on the swivel.
Okay, all right. And my only other question for Mike is this comparable to what we're paying the other position? The person that we currently have?
The answer would be no, because right now we have 2 part-time people at about 3.5 hours each. So therefore, this position is going to be a benefited position at, I think it was either 7 or 8 hours a day. So that's the difference.
And the other will still be a 2 split then?
Assuming that both of them want to continue in that position. or
Okay,
how
right.
How do we hire that? But yeah, correct, right?
So take it like this, the 7 to 8 hour position will go down there. So each position will have 7 or 8 hours.
Gotcha.
Right, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I completely understand the spirit of why you want the position. What I am concerned about is the oversight that you're gonna have. So like, what I'm saying is there a way you can, like, I don't wanna be in your business, but I want you to have oversight so that you can have audits to make sure that person is doing their job effectively all the time, because they're gonna get, you know, camera fatigue if they just sit and look at cameras all day and then, you know, so what I'm saying is, do you have some sort of plan, or can you present some sort of plan to the board saying, hey, you know, I'm gonna have internal audits to make sure that that person, otherwise there's no oversight, we hire this position, you know, and then we're kind of stuck with it. So what I'm saying is, can you present something that you're gonna have so that you can always like, I like that you're saying they're gonna meet and greet with students, they're gonna know the faculty, they're gonna know that, but I'm just worried about if somebody's sitting in front of cameras, how do we hold that position accountable?
Sure.
It's an ongoing question, so
Sure.
if you could kind of.
Yeah, I mean, as with any position, we'll have an evaluative process to like understand like, you know, as we lay out the job criteria and it's laid out in the job description. And we work through training and so on, like, here's the expectation. And then we'll have, you know, we'll sit down and have discussions and reviews like we would with any employee, like a paraprofessional or a teacher or whatever, like, you know, what's the evaluation process, how are we doing, you know. I'm hoping, like, they shouldn't be looking, staring at the screen. I mean, like, you know,
So I would like,
again,
yeah,
like,
I'm just
during
saying,
class period.
I agree.
like,
I just want you to work with Mike so when that job description is written, that we don't find ourselves in a position we don't want to be in, with a security position that we have no accountability.
It's already written.
That's right. Let me say this too. Just use the term, we're stuck with that position. We're never stuck with a position. We can always eliminate a position. Person would become displaced, we find another home for the person within the organization. So I just want, you know,
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I understand.
I just had a question about qualifications. Who are we looking for? Are we looking for law enforcement? Are we looking for someone that has security background?
It's labeled in the job description as a quasi law enforcement kind of idea, but that's not, like, they will not be doing anything remotely, like, law enforcement wise. There really is a bit of just a monitor of what is taking place inside the building. So there's not necessarily, we would like somebody who has, you know, some sort of, you know, we'd love it if they had some technological background or understanding of that. If somebody had some security position, you know, capabilities, or was used to, like, security monitoring and so on, amazing, right? That'd be great. Sure. What we really want is a point of contact, like somebody who's established a relationship with kids and knowing where they are, what they are, how they're doing.
Thanks, Micah, for putting this together. I'm curious, as far as, just budgetary, when we create a position like this, I'm assuming we have funds available to do that, just because we're probably understaffed in other areas, or how do we handle that?
We have funds available. We're at the point where we can't be adding any more positions for this, looking at the budget moving forward after this one. So we're at the point where we're maxed out as we looked at that.
Okay. So we could add this and still, we'll still be in plan doing this, right? Is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes we have, we've had a lot of positions come forward and, so that's where there's a certain point where to say, okay, we're there.
We've analyzed and examined the positions that we eliminated from 22-23, positions that we weren't able to fill this current school year, the additional positions that we did put in place this school year. And right now, we're pretty close to being about cost neutral as far as FTEs for this current school year. So right now, we got to be a little bit more careful after this for this current school year. And we can look at next year for next year, because next year is a different budget, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud, but maybe on that, if there's a way to add some sort of measure so we know where that's at as a board would be helpful, maybe on the personnel report or something, I don't know. But if we just had a way of knowing if we're below budget just because we're not staffed fully, or just how we're sitting compared to the budget, that would be good to know. Does that make sense what I'm saying? It's a moving target. It is a moving target, but I get it's a moving target, but I just say, and it sounds like you guys are doing your due diligence, which is really what I want to make sure it is being done. Not that I was doubting that, but.
And what we've used a little bit more now that we're into Skyward with position control, what we weren't able to use in our other system is we've just had so many changes with the implementation of the new curriculum. And instead of just saying just from a factual standpoint of, you put your roster of your positions in, and then, you have sort of like your vacancies, and then we've worked, Mike's talked to that a little bit, but since you're settled in more, we'd be able to say, this is how many special education paraprofessionals we have, this is how many, or people in all the different roles, and we can talk to that a little more cleaner than we've been able to in the past.
I personally think it's a great idea. I mean, I like it. I know school security has been an ongoing concern, a public concern for many years now. And, one thing that we've always heard anytime the subject came up was, fathers and vets and retired law enforcement. That's so many people that would love to have a job like that. So I personally think it's a good idea. I see Lee left. I was gonna ask him why he didn't come up with this idea before. Well, that's okay. But yeah, no, it's a great idea.
And then we'll,
Mike, I trust your judgment and the structure of how you presented the position. So I'm gonna ask if there's any other structure you could have presented for the position. This is probably your best one, so I'm gonna pull on your judgment of that. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Do we want a motion? Do we need?
yes, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the second.
Second by Biff. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, our next item is, we do have some proposed calendar amendments. And those were provided, and we would look for a motion and a second to approve those calendar amendments. Do I have a motion?
No.
Okay, Karen, a second?
I'll second.
Second by Biff. Okay, any discussion about that? Yes, Chris.
I have one question on one motion. My question, Mike, is the second one for the bilingual interpreters. This was their suggestion for how to fix it, or this was ours? And do you know if they're amenable to it? Because what you're really asking them to do is to work 2 really long days in a row now.
Which they'll be compensated, obviously, but it came from them, from them.
Okay, that's
Because-
what I care.
Right, Thursday, when we put the Thursday for the elementary and the middle school, they said, whoa, we don't think we meet the needs of our families. We said, okay, then we have to separate them, and we just moved.
Okay, all right, as long as they're amenable. And my second thing is, I would like to move that we, rather than moving the staff development day to the Monday, which is essentially doing what I said we've done historically and I don't like, we either eliminate the staff development day and just make it a holiday for everybody, or put the staff development day back on that Friday. Let's really make it MLK Day for everyone, not just the kids. That's my motion. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second that, because I believe we discussed that last time, and I think that's a good idea.
And
Do we
give
do
me
we
the
need an
date?
extra day then somewhere?
I'm sorry, Kim.
Yeah.
So then what I would,
January 20th. Go ahead.
so then what I would suggest is we just table this tonight. I need to go back and study if we're going to make that a totally non-student, non-staff day. And look and make some, see what we can do, what we're gonna do. Come back to you again with the set. That's what I would suggest. If you, otherwise, we're gonna do two of the 3 tonight. It's up to you.
Make a motion to table it.
Okay, motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Chris, second. Okay. All those in favor of tabling the schedule signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thanks. Okay, and our next item is the budget amendments. And we're looking for a motion and a second to approve the budget amendments. Anyone? Is there a motion? Motion by Chris, second?
I will second.
Second, thank you, Beth. Any discussion about the proposed, the budget amendments? And Angela, was there anything you wanted to add?
This is what will appear in the paper with what's on page 2, so we're just trying to get us in a normal cycle, not a normal cycle, but a more regular cycle, excuse me. Say like February, May, and then end of fiscal year. And so just to publish updates to the budget, and really we're managing budget on the front end rather than the back end. So like the budget amendment list, which is the 3rd page, we had a series, a special of grants that we received. There was a trail grant, common school fund revenue, special aid adjustment, that won't happen every year. And then Perkins revenues, speak up, speak out incentive grants. And so we have these opportunities that essentially come along the way throughout the year, and they don't cost the taxpayers any additional money, but we have to amend our total revenues and expenditures, essentially to allow them to spend their money within the system. Otherwise, we don't have a way to track their expenses. So yeah, we're just working on that, and it's budget in, because even if it's an expense or a revenue, because you're adding it to the budget.
Okay, any discussion?
Okay, so say that one more time so I can vote for it. There's no additional tax money going in this budget, it's all grants.
Correct,
that we're getting.
yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions for Angela? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we have, we're moving to our first read of policy revisions, and we have several there. The first one is policy 2110, statement of philosophy. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the first read of policy 2110?
Yeah, it was good.
Okay,
Yeah.
Carrie,
Yeah.
second?
Second.
Second by Biff, Biff's our
This is
seconder
Brenda.
today. Any discussion at all?
So is this the first read where we look at it for amending it next time, or is this the looking at it to amend it?
I would say looking at to amend it.
Okay. Okay, well then,
It can be amended at either one.
right.
But, yeah, if there's one that you have now,
I guess I'm just trying to understand what we're trying to do with our statement of philosophy. And honestly, I'm not trying to be supercilious here, or what the statement of philosophy is trying to do. But
A reflection of values, I think, mostly.
right,
Values in action, kind of.
I read it with the same question, Chris, so. I've never been a fan of social engineering. And this feels like that to me. I'm absolutely 100% happy with everything from the board and staff believe the thought and action process involved. So from the bottom, the A, B, C, D, I'm with all that, but everything above there, I think is superfluous, so I would not support it with that stuff on there.
I actually am gonna vote, not vote for this because I feel the same way, is that I think we have other policies, especially the ones that are underneath here, that give more direction to our policies. I think it's just sort of a fluff. It's not connected to any sort of state statute, anything like that. So I won't be supporting even adding this as a policy.
I didn't know if we were required to have one, that's why I was.
Well, it looks like it comes from the AO too, but I had the same questions that you did. I was wondering where we were going and what we're doing with it. I didn't have a problem with any of the content of the entire policy. I just didn't see why we're adding it. So if anybody else has answers to that, I'm definitely willing to entertain it. Carrie?
I don't see it as fluff at all. I mean, I really do think that it's important for an institution to have a sense of itself and why it's doing, you know, what its mission really is in that. And I think that this, I mean, it's not an action
right
policy, but it's a self-defining policy. I think that where we really want to like, you know, put the effort in many ways, and why we want to put it there. I mean, I think that the statement of, like, you know, with regard the early part about, you know, self-sufficiency, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that may just seem like, oh well, everybody knows that, but it's a little like, you know.
Is it covered in our mission statement or our vision statement and that type of thing? I'm just wondering.
I mean, that's the vision statement right there, but I do think it accommodates a lot of academic feels and reflects the purpose of you know, having them there. So I don't know. I think it's a value statement that indicates what kind of an institution we are, and that may be because, you know, I went to college, a liberal arts college in the 50s or 60s. But I kind of think this is a worthwhile statement.
Any other discussion?
I tend to agree with Chris's comments, and you know, my personal philosophy is less is more, and if we don't need it, we shouldn't have it. So.
Okay, so did someone want to make amendment, or do we want to just vote on the motion on the floor? Okay, seeing no amendments, we will, all those in favor of adopting the first read of policy 2110 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No. Lori, did you get
Well,
all
that's-
that? Okay.
I don't know, don't we need a roll call?
I was an aye.
Yeah.
You were an aye, you were an aye. Chris, you're against it, right?
Yep.
I was a no. So it's 4-3.
Yeah.
It's a no.
That will not move on to the second.
Okay.
Okay, our
Thanks
next
for the work.
policy is 2131, educational outcome goals and expectations. And do I have a motion and a second to approve that policy? Chris?
I'll move this one.
Okay,
You.
and second?
Yes, from you.
I'll second.
Second by Matthew Spalding. Okay, any discussion on this policy?
I just have a question. I don't quite know what the X's are in the parentheses.
So those are, basically what it comes down to is, the fixed stuff is generally Neola's language.
Yeah, right. So this
and
is that.
Some state
This
statutes,
is added
some
stuff?
other
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are where they
Okay.
feel like you have options.
Okay,
So
alright.
if a box isn't checked, you're choosing not to put that part into the policy. If a box is checked, you're choosing to put that into it.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks a lot.
But I think it's important, Carrie, to understand that that's their opinion as to where we have options. You have options to amend
Oh, yeah,
anything you
sure,
want.
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the X's that are marked or unmarked are our recommendation based on the situation that we're in currently. And of course, you can unmark a box and mark a different one if you'd like. Yep.
Sure.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it carries. The second policy is 2132. This is educational process goals. And I would look for a motion and a second to approve. First read, Chris.
I'll move.
Okay,
Second.
second by Biff. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, policy 2230, course guides.
2230. Oh, 2230, okay.
Yeah, 2230, course guides. I would be looking for a motion and a second to approve. Chris?
Yeah. Second.
Second by Biff. Any discussion on that one?
Yeah, I have a note here. I was curious, Lee or someone, if you could, I'm just curious to understand the thought process for what was included and excluded. I was just reading through that.
Yeah, so the thought process for the ones that are included, I'll just say that those are essential, I think, to the components of what we look for when we're looking to bring a course to the board for approval. A couple of these other ones, I think, there are different things teachers do as far as methods. There are different activities. I don't think we want to be dictating at this level what specific activities are being executed in a curriculum. I think that's a little bit overboard because I don't think we have, well, we certainly don't have that right now, right? We don't have every single activity. What you get are the standards, the course outline, like the units of study and those types of things. They're all included as essential. But the things that were excluded here are really, I don't know that were suggested methods of instruction. I mean, that may vary given, the types of students that you have or the needs that they have. So the ones that are unchecked are really, I don't believe, something we want to include in the policy based on, our professionals making those decisions in the classrooms.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Our next one is 2250. This is innovative programs. I look for a motion and a second to approve. Chris?
Second.
Biff? Any discussion regarding policy 2250? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next one is policy 2271.01. This is Start College Now program. I'd look for a motion and a second to approve.
So,
Second.
I have a question about this. I mean, we used to do this at UW Manitowoc. It was a state program, and it seems like this is that same program, except there's no reference whatsoever to the university.
Correct. This is technical. This is
exclusively technical.
Yes, we have the other in the university setting as well, a similar program for the university setting. Yes, yep.
You couldn't put them together?
They're separate policies.
Okay, all right, all right, sure, all right.
All right, any discussion, questions about that one? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Our last one is policy 2330, homework. And I would look for a motion and a second to approve.
So
Chris and Matthew Spalding, second. Okay. Any discussion on that? Yes, Chris.
Yeah, I have just one question, and that is, under E, it says, as a valid educational tool, homework should be assigned with clear direction, with the 100% there, and its product carefully evaluated. How prescriptively are we saying it should be carefully evaluated?
I think my interpretation of this language is that as a board, we're saying, if we give homework and we ask kids to do it, we should be evaluating it.
Yeah, someone should be.
Correct.
Okay, all right, I'm just making.
Generally statement.
Yeah.
It's basically a statement of, we believe that if we give homework, we should use it evaluatively.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Just trying to understand.
Yep.
Okay, any questions at all or amendments there? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, and then we do have our suggested policy revisions. Those are also in board book with the old or the current policy that we have too. So those will be presented as a first read at our next meeting. Okay, just a few remarks. Carrie and I will be attending, we've been invited to the visioning session for McKinley. And so Carrie and I will be going to that on Thursday. The McKinley board will also have 2 members, and then there's a large group of people, but we will represent you in that visioning session. There's still that meeting that is, I believe, at the end of, Chris, I think you're going, right, to the WASB.
The one in Appleton?
Yes, the one in Appleton. So that's the Title IX. So, we're having that next week someone come, but this is more information if anybody wants to sign up for that. Let Lori know and she can get you signed up for that. And we got this as a email, came to all of us, but this is something that is coming up on Thursday. It's the how school-based mental health services help Manitowoc County students. So if we have, people know that they're going and we have a quorum, we'd like to send out a notification on that. So if you could let Lori know right now whether you're gonna go.
I think
or
I'm
not.
gonna go.
So
Does that conflict with your other meeting?
Well, the meeting that at McKinley is from 4 to 6.
Okay, okay.
I already talked to somebody, they said, are you going? And I said, well, I might be a bit late, but I plan to
Okay.
go, yeah.
Anybody else?
I'll be there for
Chris will be there.
I'll be there for my long-range planning for the library, so
Okay,
I'll stop in after that.
okay.
All right, and I'll plan.
Okay, so we have 3.
You should just pick my meetings,
Okay, I'll just post it.
I would post it,
Okay, okay.
just in case.
If we sit at different parts of the room there, we couldn't have it, couldn't have
If
it.
it's still, I don't know.
I sent a message to Jim, Katie, but I wasn't sure if we had a representative from just our district.
Ramona Charlotte oversees our mental health and safety, so I think she's putting it.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so then moving up to future meeting dates. I wanted to talk, so Biff is signed up for the board committee meeting at LHS on 2/20. So that'll be next week. And then Biff and Tony are signed up to go on March 19th. And that's up at the high school to meet with Ellie and her group, 9:28 to 10:27. And then, Ellie would like a plan for who's going to attend those. Biff is on the rest for the end of the year, but I just wanted to ask if no one else wants to attend that, then we'll just have Biff go for the rest of the time. And unless, I'll leave it open for anyone to sign up, but just kind of, nobody has yet. So, and Ellie kind of like to know who's going to be there for the end of the year.
I had tried once, and honestly, I must have screwed something up. I don't know how it's not working for me, so.
Okay, so you have the next 2 months, Ellie, and we'll get you, the last two.
I think Stacy said this is the 20th is the next meeting with the committee?
Yes.
Carrie was asking.
This is the committee meeting that we're gonna send representation to from the board to the committee. So Biff is gonna go to that. And the high students. Yeah, student senate. Okay, so Elliot, we'll let you know who those, for those other couple months. We have a special board meeting. It's gonna be February 27th at 6 p.m. And then I also want to just remind everyone about the March 6th, 2024 from 4 to 6 professional development session with the attorney. And again, we're asking for any questions, topics that be here to us by February 27th. Okay, that ends our general business that we have. I will need a motion in a second for the Board of Education to convene in closed session for the purpose of considering the following matter: employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data, or any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This meeting is authorized pursuant to section 19.85, section 1C of the Wisconsin statutes and comprehensive superintendent evaluation, progress goals, and objectives. So I'll look for a motion to close session.
I thought, did anyone reply to your?
Nobody replied to me, so we're gonna go.
Oh, nobody did?
I assume that we didn't have to unless we wanted to go.
Oh, you're all done.
I don't think we need to go.
Okay, we're all good?
I think I was.
Well, since it's on the agenda, I think we got to vote on it. Vote nay.
So we need a motion and a second to go into closed session, and if nobody wants to do it, then we won't do a motion and a second.
All right, I'll motion.
I'll second.
Wait a second.
Say it one more time for
Wait a
us.
second. If you don't want to go into closed session, then nobody should make a motion and a second.
Oh, I retract my.
I thought
That's exactly the word. Well done.
I retracted.
Okay, so that means then that we would need a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Before we adjourn, congratulate the Lincoln High School girls basketball team.
That's GPA.
Has a 3.86 grade point.
That is amazing, and I did.
Oh,
Very good.
Shut up.
Honestly, I think the team did really good at state.
They had a pretty good season.
So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by Biff, seconded by Chris.
We don't need to vote on this.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I didn't think so either, and I was.
Yeah, sorry if I missed that. I thought you said. Unless you want to go in.
Yeah, that's fine.